All right, welcome everybody. This is the very first episode of the cast, Backstage Banter. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Saris, and with me is my colleague who I will let himself introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I'm Morgan Elgarden, and I'm gonna go on this wacky journey with Jason and all of you.
So you guys don't know us, but hopefully you will soon. To give you a little bit of background, Morgan and I are both aspiring actors. We have been in several projects over the years. Nothing super major. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's been a couple things that you've probably seen but didn't see us in it. It's kind of the nature of the business, but we are aspiring actors. We are the producers and directors of the upcoming series No Wonder You're Single. And this is our podcast about the filmmaking industry and some of the quirks and things that we have learned over the years and some interesting tidbits about just what we think about stuff that's going on in the industry or just movies and pop culture film in general.
Now, I know what you're
Morgan,
thinking.
I'm glad that you're
I know what
here.
everybody's thinking. Everybody's thinking, "Ah, just another couple of schmoes talking about the entertainment industry." And yes, but ours ours is a little bit different. I like to think because, as Jason said, we have stepped into the producer directing role. We're sort of actors turned filmmaker, and I like to think that we have a little bit of a more like under the hood perspective on things where we're going to strive to talk about things that aren't typically talked about. Now, we'll definitely talk about those typical things, I think, but I would like what we're going to strive to do here is provide a different perspective on stuff.
We'll do our best. Um, that being said, our first episode is probably not going to be too. There's not going to be too many revelations, I think, in our first episode because we wanted to start things off kind of light and fun. It is October, and October brings spooky season. And does anybody
Indeed.
actually call it spooky season, or is that
No, just you.
exclusively for? I feel like it's exclusively for like moms in their 30s. And
It's
believe me, if there's any moms in their 30s that are out there listening to this, like, email the show. I might like to meet you.
it's
Like, I'm not opposed to it.
um I
I'll
think that
celebrate spooky season with you.
spooky season is something that is a phrase that I think is intentionally cringy. Um, the only people that I hear say spooky season are people who are like infatuated with Halloween, or they're doing it ironically, like spooky season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's because, Halloween is one day, right? And Christmas, while being 2 days, counting Christmas Eve, it is a whole season. Like once you hit December, everybody is all, putting decorations out and they're all over the place. And Halloween has gained traction over the last however many years. And now it has become more of like it breaks up fall, right? People like start getting towards the end of August, they start putting their fall stuff out,
Mm,
and then all of a sudden, halfway through September, they're like, "Well, time to shift gears. Let's start putting horror related things out there."
yeah.
But I also think it's a little bit less intimidating than horror. So spooky season can be things that are like mildly spooky, like a Harry Potter type of thing. Like there's just a lot
Sure.
of cool fandoms to it. I'm not opposed to it. I think it's fine.
I just think that like spooky season is juvenile, my opinion.
To each their own. I fully embrace the spooky season at this point, but I get
No,
where
I
you're
mean like
coming from.
I enjoy like the Halloween spirit. I like putting up decorations. I like having that like fall feeling and that sort of ethereal vibe that comes with Halloween. Spooky season just feels dumb.
Did you dress up as a kid for Halloween?
Sometimes. I actually got a lot of flack for this when I went to college because every as actors, right? It's like Halloween is our holiday. And I to some degree was removed from that because I was like, I mean like my job is as an actor. I dress up. Like why am I oh, I don't feel like this is like different than what
Sure.
I
Yeah, every
typically
day's
do.
Halloween for you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I never got the hype as an actor, but like for actors, this was like a big deal. And I was not ostracized, but I was definitely like the black sheep in college of like, why are you not excited about this? I was like, well, I don't know, because tomorrow I'm gonna go on stage and I'm gonna dress up like uh Englishman in the play that I'm doing. Like, I don't.
I'm gonna give you two stories, quick stories about times that I dressed up, once as a child and once as an adult. As a child, my probably most ridiculous costume, I was one year a pirate, which came with like a felt, like a strong, firm kind of felt hat that was the pirate hat. But the next year, I wanted to be Batman, and my parents didn't want to buy me a Batman outfit, or we couldn't find one or something. So my mom decided she was going to make a Batman outfit out of the pirate costume that I had the year before. So she had cut apart the pirate hat, the felt pirate hat, and fashioned it into like a Batman cowl. And I remember as a kid, I was like, this is awesome.
That
I
sounds
was
pretty
so
cool.
excited because it was like unique or whatever until I went to school and saw other Batman.
And saw other Batmans.
Because when you look at an
Oh,
actual
man.
licensed Batman design and you're like, I am I am not Batman. I'm like Batman's sad little brother that
Yeah.
couldn't quite afford the same costume.
That's,
But
y I do think that's a factor, though, because, like, if you come from a family that's n not particularly well off, Halloween costumes are not exactly at the top of the list
they're
of
expensive.
purchases, you know? So and that
Yeah.
was to some degree my circumstance, so I was a very conscientious child, so I was like, if I get excited and then like my parents can't do a thing, they're gonna feel bad, and it's this whole domino effect. So, that's part of it. I will say in my older years and now having actually lived life as an actor for a little bit, I am more into the idea of Halloween and dressing up, but now it's like, well, you missed your chance, bucko. It's for kids.
You know, we should have thought of this before, but we should have done this show dressed in some sort of costume.
Oh, that would have
Like
been
that would have
fun.
been fun, at least for the people that can watch the video, because the audio people would have no idea. They would think we were like, they'd probably take us very seriously, and we'd be over here like a clown or, God only knows what else. Um,
Pennywise.
but to finish up my story, later, I was in college and I had to attend a costume party for Halloween. So this was my time to bring Batman back and do a better job at it. And I went all out. Like
Hey.
I spent way too much money collecting bits and pieces from various places. I had a cool utility belt. I had a legit cowl. I mean, the whole thing, like it was. I don't remember how much I spent on it. It was too much. It was ridiculous. But I got a lot of praise. It looked awesome. Now, I bring this up because when you have spent all that money on it, you don't just discard it after Halloween. So I had it for a while.
Sure.
And there was one day, and I don't remember what the catalyst for this was, but one of my roommates was like, hey, I'm thinking of going up to the bar dressed in a Superman costume that I have left over from Halloween. You still got that Batman outfit? And I was like, I do have that Batman outfit. He's like, you
Yes.
busy? And I'm like, I am not busy. So we went
Best
up to the
wingman.
bar sitting as Superman and Batman, just kind of sitting at the counter like it was like a long day at work, fighting goons or whatever we were doing. And I I have never had so many people, drunken people, come up and ask me if they can go for a ride in the Batmobile. Like I think at some point they lost sight of the fact that because it wasn't Halloween, it was just like a random day in like June. I think that they were like to the point where they're like, this might be Batman.
Yeah.
It was really something.
That's so funny. I also think that like, so the goal was just to like go out and feel good and have some drinks, or was the goal to pick up girls?
No, it was not to pick up girls. Certainly, we had attention from women by doing this,
Sure.
but the goal was just like, hey, let's just do something random. So it was me, my roommate who was Superman, and his buddy who was there at the time, and he's like, I I need a costume then too. And we're like, well, you don't have to if you're going to come. You can just come hang out. He's like, no, no, let me check my car. And for some reason, he had a giant pink bunny outfit. Like it looked
That's
almost like
amazing.
the kid from A Christmas Story. So the three of us sat there together. It was quite the sight. And we got a lot of eyeballs on us the whole evening. It was, yeah, it
Isn't
was fun. It
isn't
was fun.
there isn't there I feel like and definitely correct me if I'm wrong because you're our resident How I Met Your Mother expert, but isn't there an episode where Barney has to pick up girls in a bunny costume? Isn't that a challenge? Isn't that one of the challenges that he has to do?
I think you might be right. That sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. I think you might be right.
So,
But
you
we've
know.
started to we've started to digress a bit. But the whole point of this episode is Halloween, of course.
Yes.
And in addition to dressing up for Halloween, one of the biggest parts of the season is
Horror
horror movies.
movies.
Yeah. Do you watch horror movies?
I don't care for them, which is, I think, hilarious because, like, I feel like I'm much more excited to talk about this topic in this present moment than you are, and you're our horror movie watcher.
I love a good horror movie. I really do. I'm just curious, why is it that you don't care for them? Is it because they're scary or
So,
you just don't like other things about them?
well, do you want the sophisticated answer or the true answer?
Both.
The sophisticated answer is that horror movies have no real satisfying plot. I have yet to see a horror movie that like intrinsically has any sort of like message or plot or story to it. They do have internal cogency, but there's not like after every single horror movie, I'm sort of like, okay, so everybody died.
I
uh
think that's really interesting. I also disagree with you, but I there's a lot of horror movies out there, so I guess it depends on what you have and haven't seen. So maybe we'll delve into that more as we kind of go through our agenda for today, because I do plan on talking about a few things revolving around horror movies. We're going to talk about some of the classics, and I'll see what you have and haven't seen out of those. Maybe we'll discuss some of our favorites, or maybe your case, what some of your least
so
favorites were.
I do want
And
to I do want to make a distinction at this point cuz I think that this will be funnily divisive, which is I firmly believe that psychological thriller is not horror.
yeah, and I can understand your point. I do think that there's a fine line between them that some of those do blur a bit when you get there. Like if I look at the movie The Ring is a pretty psychological film for a
Okay.
lot of it. But I would also say that it qualifies as horror. I think a lot of times people think of horror as slasher films, but I think that like it's an umbrella within an umbrella, and I think slasher is one of the pieces of horror. But I
Mhm.
do think psychological thrillers can, depending on what type of psychological thrilling it's doing, it can fall into the horror wheelhouse.
Sure. And this is something that I just think is always a fun conversation to have because I have been convinced in the past by a well-made argument that psychological thriller and thriller in general can be in the horror category. But the question that I would ask is, does it have horror elements? How are you defining horror elements and does it have horror elements? And if a film lacks those horror elements, does it deserve to be in the horror category? Because I believe that you can have a psychological thriller that has horror elements that makes it a horror film. But if it didn't have those horror elements, then it wouldn't be a horror film.
And that's a fair distinction because like I said, I think that some thrillers toe the line, but they don't cross into horror. So I think that that's a fair distinction. Um, so maybe we should start at some of the classics.
Sure.
I don't know what you've seen before. We haven't talked about this previously, but
Yeah.
what do you think of when you think of horror classics? Like what comes to your mind?
So, I have a brother who's pretty into horror films, and I also have a dad who's somewhat of a cinema buff. And my growing up, my understanding of like classic horror would be the old school Universal monster movies. So, Creature from the
Okay.
Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, the Alien one, with the pod people. Those would be like my idea of classic horror. My brother had me watch The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think is
It's a great
considered,
movie.
yeah, that's considered a horror film. And I'll be honest, that is a more satisfying film than I think most other horror. But at the end, I was still like, wait, so like it just nobody took care of it, so now like it just the rest of the planet is now gonna potentially be infected or impacted by this thing. Like there's
I
no
mean, I guess it's a little
closure.
bit open. I guess it's a bit open for interpretation, but I think that they do take care of it. I mean, I think that that's the point, right? They blow the whole spoiler alert for anybody who's not seen the thing. But and I guess before I get into that, I just want to say if you haven't seen the thing and you're okay with spoilers, the movie is about these guys that are what is it in the Antarctic or either in
It's in the
Antarctica?
Arctic. I think it takes place in Alaska.
Okay, it's either in the Arctic or the Antarctic. It's somewhere very icy, very remote, and these guys are on like a research base. And this dog shows up in the beginning of the movie, and they have people chasing it, and nobody understands why they're trying to attack this dog. The dog ends up being some sort of creature, an alien creature that can shapeshift. And the movie does a really great job of building suspense. Like you don't know who is really that character or who is this creature that is now morphed to look like them. And it's done really well. And I got to say, too, there's something about the old school creature designs like that practical creature element that just is so unsettling.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, that it doesn't look as detailed as like a CGI thing does now, but it is works so well in horror. But at the end of this movie, they blow up the whole facility, and there's two guys that have survived all of the events that took place, and they are just waiting for their fire to go out, where they will inevitably freeze to death. So I took that as they made the ultimate sacrifice. They knew that the only way to do this was to blow it all up and accept their fate, because then the thing would either die in the explosion or have nowhere else to go, and it would solve the problem one way or the other. That's the way that I kind of walk away from it.
I also thought though, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought that there was a shot at the end of like the dog running off.
I don't recall that. But
And
also, I
that's
mean, the dog, I mean, they nuked the dog shape well before then.
no,
So I don't.
that's why I was left at the end of the film. And look, I could be misremembering, but assuming that that scene did happen, and I'm not like like messing up the order of events in my head, but assuming that at the end of the film there's a shot of the dog running off, you know that it's not the original dog because you see the dog bite the dust in the progression of the film. So you're
Sure.
left at the end of like, oh, so they failed. They it didn't work. They failed.
Which, horror movies are notorious for like an ending like that, right? You have some kind of cliffhanger, or you just realize that it was all moot and evil wins and that kind of thing. And I think that's what makes them interesting, because it does subvert your expectations to a degree. Even though we know that it's likely going to happen, you don't get that from other genres of movie. You don't. You're typically going to find that the hero wins. There's some sort of resolution. You walk away feeling good most of the time, not in every movie, but with horror, you almost expect that like the bad guy is going to get away with it somehow, or like they'll return again. And
Mhm.
that's part of, I think, why horror movies are so interesting, because they give you a feeling like
Mm.
during the movie that other movies don't, but then they give you a feeling afterwards where it's like, oh, don't want to look under my bed, don't want
Do
to
you
go to the
know?
closet, that guy
Yeah.
got away.
Do you know what I think is the failing? Like so this is like back to my sophisticated answer. The failing of horror movies is that there's so much focus on the horrific circumstances. So there's so much focus on like what makes this a horror film, and there's not enough, I guess, care given to making me care about what's happening. Like, I typically, when I watch a when I can be convinced to watch a horror film, I don't typically walk away with a sense of, I learned about a set of characters in a circumstance, grew to care about them, and then the ending had an impact. Like with the thing specifically, you're introduced to this circumstance, and it's a cool circumstance. Like I'm not I we definitely do a lot of brainstorming and spitballing of ideas, and I think it's a cool idea of like, guys, what would happen if this research team encountered an alien life form and the life form was trying to kill them? Cool idea. I think it's a fun thing to watch, but then at the end you're sort of left with, okay, well, I didn't grow to really understand or like these characters, and they failed in their mission. So I'm left with this sort of like, well, so they just kind of suck.
Yeah, and I think again it's going to depend on the film because some films there are a lot of bad horror movies and sometimes that's the best part of a horror movie. Like, have you ever seen the movie Jeepers Creepers?
No.
Jeepers Creepers is a terrible movie. It is so bad. It is so stupid. The things that happen in this movie make no logical sense. And watching it is like it's like a torture device, but it's also wildly entertaining because it's so incredibly dumb. And I will give you just a brief example of what I'm talking about, right? The main villain in the movie is the Creeper. He is this demonic being that shows up every like 27 years or something like that to feed for 27 days, and then he goes away to resurge again in the next feeding cycle. So when you get introduced to him, the first time we see him, we don't see him, we just see a being driving this big truck that's tailing our main characters, and it won't get off of their tail, and it's almost running them off the road. And it's like this really frantic moment. The tension is good. Like the director builds the tension, the scene very well. And then eventually they get pushed off the road and the truck keeps going. And you see on the back of the vehicle, it's got a vanity plate that says, "Be eating you." Now,
That's so
this
stupid.
tells me that this demonic being 27 years ago went to the BMV, stood in line, asked for a vanity plate, and had to go through ideas to get like
No,
when
no,
you
no, no,
start to
no.
think
You're
about like
like you're
it's so
logicking it out.
incredibly.
You're logicking it out. This is a supernatural entity. He obviously just crafted his own vanity like it's definitely not a registered vehicle.
Sure, but like I was just watching that, and they make such a big deal about it because this movie has Justin Long in it, if you know who that is. And Justin Long, sees it and he reads it as beating you because he thinks like this guy's got a lead foot and that's why he ran him. They make a big deal like beating you. What a jerk, beating you. But then it's all like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's actually you find out later it's be eating you, and then another character tells him that because he's like, no, this character's got to feed, and it's he writes it as be eating you. And it's like, so the dude's got a sense of humor. Like, I don't, it's not, it takes itself very seriously, but it has dumb things like this that you just can't help but l- laugh at, but not laugh with, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, that's why I like the Scary Movie horror parody. You know Scary Movie?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah. So
first few
that's
were good.
That's why I mean, like, I've only ever seen the first Scary Movie. I know that there's, like, 4 or 5 of them, but I've
Yeah.
only ever seen the first one and greatly enjoyed it because it pokes fun at all of the things that I have an issue with in terms of, like, how successful horror films are, because they lack any kind of character development, they lack any kind of legitimate story, because essentially, if you boil down a horror film, it's what it comes down to is who's the monster and what does he want or do? And that's the focus.
Yeah. Some of them, yeah. But there's been a lot of them over the years. The Shining comes to mind too. I mean, that
Sure. Yeah.
there is definitely an arc to that movie.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson definitely goes through a journey
Yeah.
during the Shining. Um,
That one I think would definitely be a better I think if you're going to try and sell horror movies as like a fully flushed out genre, that would be one of the examples that I would use because it does. You do sort of grow to understand who these characters are, and you as the audience develop an opinion about those characters. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I
Yeah.
think that when I talk about horror a lot, people always have the pushback of, well, horror's not about character development. And I'm like, I understand, but I, as the audience, need to some degree, care about the characters. So I'm not talking about I need to know about where they went to school or their last divorce or their first relationship. Like I don't need like backstory, but I need to care about the characters.
No, I definitely agree. It's specifically with slasher films. Slasher films tend to have very loose, if any, sort of character development. Again, not all of them. There are plenty that do, but I think that there are movies that are made just for the sake of the kills, and those I think spend less time on what you're talking about, actually developing arcs and that sort of thing. But if there's an audience for it, there's an audience for it. If somebody
Oh,
enjoys
sure.
that, then by all
Well,
means, make it for your
you know
audience.
what's crazy about it though is like, so like I have all of these issues with horror, but I 100% exist in the minority. Do you know the number one best-selling genre of film?
Uh, I'm gonna guess romantic comedies.
It's horror.
Is it really?
Horror is the number one best-selling genre, and the reason is because they're easy to make, and, they're very easy to sell, like, as far as creating a poster and a marketing campaign around, and it's a very, very popular genre. So you look at any
Believe that.
aggregate of sales by genre, and horror is the number one category almost across the board.
I can believe that, and I don't want to discredit people that make those movies by saying that they're easy, but I do think that it does lend itself to the production process when you don't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
worry about certain things, right? Like,
Mhm,
you can if you have a scene like, the dark is scary, right? So you do things in the dark, it can hide a lot of the limitations that you may have from a production standpoint, which aids in building that. So I can see where it's easy, quote unquote, to make them,
yeah.
and I can
That's
also
why I
see where
said
it might be
easy.
profitable because you can keep yeah, because making a film is difficult
Oh,
regardless of
for
what it
sure.
is. It takes a village to make it. It's very costly, but related or relatively speaking, an easy movie to make. Um, but I can also see too, because you can do it with oftentimes a lower budget, that it's easier to also make money on it too. So
Mhm,
if you're going to make a money on it, that's why you see so many sequels of
mhm,
these horror movies, because they figured out how to make a movie with a very cheap budget. It had to cross just a very small threshold in order to be profitable, and
mhm.
now you can just make a second one.
Yeah.
So I give those people a lot of credit. I'm not knocking them at all.
There's,
I have had aspirations of making a horror movie at some point. I would love to do that. Um,
this is my personal thoughts on like young filmmakers trying to get their foot in the door. If you want to build a portfolio and prove that you have the chops, quote unquote, to be a filmmaker and make films, there's a lot of people that I know, and from the research that I've done, that making a horror film is a great first step for a multitude of reasons. The first is that it is quote unquote easy because there are things that you can do in the filmmaking process that alleviate certain filmmaking processes. The second thing is that to sell a horror film to a distributor, say like Walmart, or to put it on Amazon, is much easier. These companies have like a 6-to-4 ratio of like how they buy certain films, and they're much more likely to buy horror films because again, they're easy to market and they're easy to sell. And if you can get a project under your belt that has gotten to a distributor and sold, and you can prove that you've made a profit, it's a very, very good first step. So I'm not knocking horror films either. Might have come across that way before, but yeah, horror films are if you acknowledge what you are, if you acknowledge that you are a horror film, and you go through the process of making a horror film the right way, it's a very good first portfolio piece.
You know who started in the horror genre and is a huge Hollywood director right now?
I mean, there's probably a long list because a lot of people start in horror.
True, and I'm sure there is a long list, but I mean, like right now, James Gunn is a huge
Yes.
presence in Hollywood.
Yes.
James Gunn started his career with Troma films, which
Mhm.
Troma is known for doing lots of gory, gruesome, crazy films. Then he made his first big Hollywood movie, Slither, which I don't know if you've seen, but that's with like those flesh-eating slugs or whatever.
Yeah.
And look where he's at now. I mean, he has built, he had those type of films. He slowly showed he can put a film together, tell a story. He has a style. He's great with pairing music to it too.
Yeah.
And his jobs got bigger and bigger. So, he ended up with Super, which, was a really interesting movie. He ended up, with the getting a deal with Marvel, making the Guardian series. He's now running the DCU. I mean, like, uh, and the work he does is fantastic too. Some of the best stuff on film and television right now is James Gunn written, directed, produced. So it is absolutely a viable path. And good stories are good stories. And if you feel,
Yeah.
whatever the genre is, you can make a good story out of anything. And I think that he's a true testament to somebody that could do that.
Yeah. So get out there, make your dreams come true, make a horror film.
All right, so we talked The Shining, we talked The Thing. Obviously we have our slashers like Halloween, Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Those are all ones that I think come to people's minds.
Yeah.
Some of the classics I feel like still hold up better than maybe classics of other genres, just because like they're so iconic. You have like these iconic figures. Up until recently, you look at Michael Myers and Jason and Freddy Krueger, and like these were like these like pillars of horror, and you
Mhm.
hadn't seen like a very defining character like with that sort of presence for a long time until recently with Art the Clown, which I think is not quite there yet, but I think he's ascending to like that level of iconic horror villains.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because there's a in my assessment, I think that there's a reason that some of these characters become so iconic, and I'm not familiar with this Art the Clown, if that's a newer one. But
Sure.
I am familiar with some of these other archetypal characters in horror. And I think my personal opinion is that the reason that some of these became so iconic is because of the practical effects. And I think that there's I don't think we know that there's a huge move to VFX in recent history, and even more recently to AI generated content. And you see all of these studios trying to develop AI studios. So I think that some of these classics became iconic and became classics because of the practicals that were involved. And if you go, so I'm in Florida right now, and if you go over to Universal, they have the horror makeup show where they talk about Universal's old school makeup techniques to create practical effects. And the thing is huge. John Carpenter's The Thing is huge for its practical effects. And you don't see practical effects in horror anymore. And I wonder if that's impacting its ability to really hold an audience because, I do think that some of the practicals maybe aren't as good, quote unquote, as a VFX shot. But like one of the things that made Jurassic Park so great is it was a combination of different stuff,
Yeah.
right? So you had the puppets that were practical on set, and then you smoothed it out in post with CGI animation. And I just wonder if the fact that it's so animation heavy, so VFX and AI now, if that's impacting what is tantalizing to audiences about a horror film.
I certainly think it plays a role. I do think when you have a practical effect and you have makeup or you rigged some sort of contraption or pumping system there is weight to that is often missing from CGI, and the actors react to it differently because
Mm.
they're seeing it and they're feeling it. There's an element of realism to it. That being said, I don't think it's the only reason because I think CGI can vary quite a bit. And there are some that has done really well. There are so many shots. You pick any movie that comes out now. I guarantee you, in any movie you pick, there is something in that movie that is CGI that you have no idea is CGI. Like you couldn't even pick it. And you would see if you wait and look at the credits, you'll see that there were CGI artists and there's like 50 of them on there.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, I was watching Little Women. Where were they putting CGI? But they put it everywhere. And to give you an example, Jordan Peele's movie, not Get Out. What's the Nope? I think it was Nope. Have you seen that one?
I didn't see it, but I know what film you're talking about.
So Jordan Peele has got he has made some horror movies recently. Nope is one of them. And it's a good film. I didn't think it was as good as Get Out. I thought Get Out was better, and I thought Us was good, but Nope I thought was interesting. And they, as a good example of this, they do a day for night scene, and if you don't know what that is, that's where you film a night scene during the daytime, and you use filters and shaders and that sort of thing to make it look at nighttime because it's very hard to film at night because you can't control the lighting, and if you control it too much, then it doesn't look like night anymore. So a lot of times movies will film during the day and they fix it in post to make it look like the night. And a lot of times you can tell. You don't realize it, but as soon as somebody points it out to you, you're like, yeah, this is clearly daytime and they have a blue filter over. In Nope, they have some of those scenes that are shot day for night, and in the background you see like lights on the house, lights of neighboring cities, stars in the sky. It all looks legitimately like it was filmed at night. It looks fantastic. I didn't know until recently where it was pointed out to me by a VXF company that was, kind of dissecting it, that that was all done that way and you have no idea. And that's just a small example, but there are tons of movies that use it all over the place and things you would never imagine. You look at somebody, you'll be watching some sort of film where like Gravity, where they go into space and you go, yeah, obviously space is VFX. Yeah, so was their face mask to their outfit. And you would think that they would just put
Mm.
a plastic dome over the astronaut helmet, but then it gets hard for the actors to breathe, it gets hard to hear them, it
Sound
fogs
also.
up. So they just have nothing in there and they add it in VFX and you have no idea. It looks like it's supposed to be there. So I think that VFX do play a role, but I don't think it's exclusively the reason that they hold it. I think a bigger part of it is that there has been so many horror movies, to your point, that a lot of these ideas are recycled, right? You have the
Sure.
big slasher,
Sure.
so once you've seen it, it's not as impactful. But these characters also have iconic designs. They have an iconic premise. I think like Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger is the scariest possible concept anybody has ever come up with. I cannot think of a scarier idea than a person that gets you in your sleep because you have to sleep. You cannot run from him. You can get, I mean, like Jason is scary because he pops out of nowhere. Michael Myers is scary because he is relentless. But you can give yourself some sort of peace by going, well, I'm not at Camp Crystal Lake,
Yeah.
or I've locked my door. I'd have to hear him bust through, right?
Yeah.
Like you can give yourself a peace of mind afterward. Freddy Krueger is like you got nothing.
Yeah.
Like
There's no
you're gonna
escape.
fall asleep eventually, and he's gonna get you.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the other part of it, is that the ideas were novel at the time, and they did a great job designing this, this iconic figure to embody this novel idea. And I think that's the big piece of it.
So I do think that there is a novelty aspect. But I think that to some degree that's a little bit of an easy out because there's something that does make horror horror in the same way that there is something that makes rom-com. And like every rom-com movie that you watch is all going to be the same concept, but I guarantee you everybody has a favorite rom-com, and it's because of how the story is told, not necessarily what the story is. So I think that with horror, yeah, you can definitely have that novelty aspect of it, but I think that to really have a successful movie, it's how you tell it. So you can recycle because like genuinely nobody here is reinventing the wheel. There's only so many stories to tell just in general. So some aspect or some component of the story that you want to tell is going to be recycled from something in the past, but it's about how you tell it and how you present it that I think is going to make it interesting to an audience. So I agree that novelty is a part of it in the same way that the practicals versus VFX are a part of it. Um, I guess I would just still firmly fall on the side that I think the practicals play a bigger role in a project's ability to become a classic.
Fair point. I will accept your opinion. Have you ever seen a horror movie that you did like?
Define like because
Like
I
if you had to pick a favorite, I mean, it could be a sliding scale, but is there a scary movie that if you were forced to watch one, you're like, I might as well watch this one because I kind of enjoyed it.
well, there's a movie that I kind of sort of remember from when I was a kid. That I don't remember exactly what it was about, but I remember certain scenes and how it made me feel. And all I remember from it, and maybe you can help me place what movie this is. Um, there's this guy. I call him Pumpkinhead because he has a pumpkin forehead.
It's a very weird leap there. I don't know how you got drawn to that conclusion.
And there's a very specific scene that I recall vividly where the main, who I assume is the main character, because like I said, I don't really remember this film. But there's a scene where there's a character in a bathroom and he's being hunted by Pumpkinhead, and Pumpkinhead gets him by like coming down from on top of the stall in the bathroom. And it's
Hmm.
very, I mean, look, this is from when I was like 8 or 9 years old, when I probably shouldn't have been watching horror films. And it was probably my first ever real encounter with a true horror jump scare. And it literally scared the pants off of me. Like,
I don't know what film that is. When you were saying Pumpkinhead, I was thinking like Sleepy Hollow or something, the story of Ichabod Crane or
no, no, it is not
but this
that.
does they would not have bathroom stalls in that movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know what movie that is. But that was your favorite, huh? Because it gave you the feels as a child and
If I were
it
gonna
was with you?
pick, yeah, if I were gonna pick a horror film that had an impact on me, because like genuinely I'm like not a horror film person. So if I were gonna pick one that had an impact on me and that I would be intrigued to see again, because like I said, I only saw it that one time, and there are a few other scenes, and they just stuck with me. So
Hmm.
hey guys, get in the chat. If this movie sounds familiar to you, help Morgan find it, and he'll watch it again. Maybe we'll do a live reaction of me watching the
Power of
movie.
Google compels you. The power of Google compels you. Um so one I like a lot of horror movies. There's a lot of good ones I've seen over the years. I will highlight one because I saw it fairly recently and thought it was just really well done. And that was the movie Barbarian. That movie is really well told. It's well shot. It's an interesting premise. It starts very uh, it starts in a way that I think is very realistic and relatable. This is a modern day time where people use Airbnbs. This woman shows up to her Airbnb to find that somebody else has already rented that same Airbnb. And,
Oh, I think I know what
there's like
movie. I think I know what movie you're talking about. What was the name?
a barbarian.
I think I know
So,
what movie you're talking about.
they have a little like conversation where it's like, oh, I thought I had the reservation. I thought I had the reservation, whatever. And they end up both spending the night there. And as soon as this movie gets that point, you're like, I know where this is going.
Is this the one
And
with the basement, with the weird, creepy basement?
yes. Yeah.
Okay, I know
You
exactly
think
what
you know
movie
where
you're
the
talking
movie's
about.
going when you're like, they're gonna share a Airbnb together. Obviously, I see how this is gonna pan out, but it throws you several misdirects. and I won't spoil them for anybody's listening because this is not an older movie. At this point, I
No,
think everyone
I
has
think this
seen some of the
one
older stuff, but
this came out
this is
in
really great.
2023, I think, right?
Yeah, it's only a few years old, but it's really well. And I think that Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise in it, so he's like, into the horror movies in general. But I want to highlight his performance in general. It is so nuanced that I think it sets you up in the perfect way. And I don't think that every actor could play it as well as he does because his performance, especially in the beginning of the movie, is critical to to what happens in the movie. And he's fantastic in it. He's a good actor in most things, but I really liked his performance in that. But it's a great movie if you haven't seen it. I highly recommend it. It is scary. It takes you on turns you don't think you're going to take. Definitely worth the watch. Now, on the
Yeah.
flip side of that, I will also tell you two movies that I really respect as a horror genre movie are The Blair Witch Project and
Okay.
Paranormal Activity.
Okay, sure,
And
sure.
those might be hot takes,
They're
but
actually probably
when
the coldest of cold takes, but go on.
no, a lot of people like to dunk on Blair Witch Project now for some reason,
Oh,
and I
really?
don't get it because when that movie came out, it was, I mean, everybody was talking about it. Those actors, I think the whole thing was genius, but those actors used their real names as their character names,
Mhm.
and people legitimately thought it was real footage. Like it was the first like found film, at least the first mainstream one, I guess.
Sure.
And people were calling their parents and sending flowers, and they thought that they were missing. And I mean, like, and they were told to like kind of go into hiding for a little bit because that was part of the marketing that they wanted people to not know that
Sure.
this was like a fake thing. They were selling the found footage thing, and it's such a brilliant idea. And after I saw that, I'm like, nobody could ever do this again because once they've done it, like cat's out of the bag. You
Yeah.
can't do this again. And then Paranormal Activity came around and figured out a different way to do a similar thing. And I'll tell you, I mean, like there are moments in that movie too where you just get shivers down your spine,
Yeah.
like, and because that too is done on a very low budget, and the practical effects that they use. I mean, it's all stuff that if you stop and think about it enough, you can figure out like, all right, this is probably how they coordinated this. But while you're watching, you're like on the edge of your seat and you're like, is that door moving? I
Yeah.
think the door, oh my God, the
There's
door was moving.
there's
Oh, it's
this
so good.
There's a scene from Paranormal Activity. So I haven't seen either in their entirety, but this is kind of what I was talking about before about how it's not necessarily this what story you're telling, but how you're telling it.
Sure.
And I think this is actually a really good example of that because honestly, at its core, the two projects are the same story. And it's just a difference in storytelling. And there's a scene in Paranormal Activity that I am aware of because of how it was filmed. There's like a very cool behind the scenes about how it was filmed. And they talk about how they set up the shot and the difficulties involved with getting the shot. And it's the shot, it's like the oneer when there's like this
When the
coat.
camera's panning back and forth,
I don't
is that the one you're
know.
talking about?
I don't think the camera's panning back and forth. I think the camera is moving, but there's a shot where it's like going into a room and there's this coat that's hanging. And when you go through this door and come back, it's like the boy is there and you're like, "Hold on, wait, was the boy always there?"
This might not be Paranormal Activity 1. This sounds like it might be Paranormal Activity 3,
Oh,
4.
maybe. This shows my ignorance on horror films, guys. So,
There's a
just
lot of these, but from a technical aspect, if the technical thing gets you, watch the first and second one in particular because the things that they pull off are are fascinating. And like I think that whole movie was made on like $20,000 or something crazy low.
wow.
And
That's
I mean,
also
it's really good.
to go back to very briefly what we were talking about earlier in terms of horror films being a good way to sort of get your portfolio going, one of the reasons horror films are so popular and easy to sell to distributors is because the profit margin is huge. It's the biggest profit margin of any movie genre that you can make because you can make a horror film on like $5,000 and turn around and like at a budget of $5,000, it doesn't matter how many copies you sell, you're going to turn a profit.
You would you would think so. Which reminds me, you sent me today a trailer for a movie called Shelby Oaks, I think it's
Oh,
called.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is a movie, and I'll let you kind of talk about it, but I just want to point out that if anybody listening to this is familiar with Chris Stuckman. He does YouTube movie reviews, and he's in Ohio like I am, so I have an affinity for his work just because there's not a lot of us in Ohio that do this kind of thing. And but I enjoy most of his reviews. I don't agree with all the reviews that he does, but I do like a lot of his takes on stuff. And he's been working on this project for a while now, and periodically does updates. And I forgot about it until you sent me that trailer today, and I was blown away. And I know it's a trailer, and trailers, sometimes sell the movie a little bit, sell the best parts of the movie. So, until I see it, I don't know if it's going to live up to the trailer itself, but
Sure.
the trailer looks phenomenal. Like it looks really good.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the trailer.
Oh, you didn't see the trailer?
I
You just sent it to me without looking at it?
well, I mean, like, I watched part of that video, but when I discerned that it was a horror thing, I was like, "You know who would find this interesting? Jason Saris."
Well, yeah, it's really good. I mean, it looks really great. I'm excited to see it. So, it's another. I bring it up because on topic with what we're talking about, you have like a low. He's not a big studio. I mean, he's been in the industry, but this is like a personal project of his. And based on what I see in the trailer, you would have no idea. I mean, this looks like as professional as can be. I have a lot of confidence that he's put a lot of love and time into it. So I'm rooting for him. I really hope that it does well. I think it releases later this month on the 24th, maybe. We don't know him personally by any means, so this is not us just plugging
This
him for
is
sake.
totally
But
a paid this is a paid promotion. We are getting paid for this plug right now. We
yeah,
personally know Sandy Hooser Fannin. I don't
Chris
this
Stuckman.
is
Yeah.
this is not a
If he catches
not a
this and
paid
wants to
promotion. Not if you guys
collaborate with
didn't
us,
get
that'd be
it.
great. But it looks cool. I appreciate, like, the idea looks novel too. So I appreciate, a good idea and good execution. And it looks like that might have it. But
So
yeah. So
So yeah, totally not a paid promotion, but if you are interested in the film, for those of you that are horror buffs, the film is called Shelby Oaks, and it's produced by Chris Stuckmans. Is that
Stuckman,
correct?
yeah.
Stuckman. So yeah, if you're interested, I don't know the movie. So the movie does come out October 24th in theaters. So yeah, not a paid promotion, but
This looks really good, and we
looks
we
good.
like to support people that are doing that grind, and it certainly seems like he is. Um, all right, so two more things I want to tell you real quick, Morgan, before we do our episodic or weekly trivia.
Oh,
That we've done every
trivia.
single episode,
I'm
including this only
so
one that
bad
we've
at
done so far.
trivia.
But two things I thought were worth mentioning here, since we kind of like getting into the weeds a little bit about production. I want to tell you first, and you may know some of this stuff, about another iconic horror movie, which some people, I guess, don't lump it into horror and some do, but Jaws. Do you know the story
Yes.
behind Jaws?
Which one?
So there was a lot of turbulence on set when they
Mhm,
were making it, and they had a lot of problems with the shark in
mhm.
general. Which,
Yes.
if you know the shark, the robotic shark that they used, they named him Bruce, which is
Bruce.
why when you're watching Little Nemo, when you see the shark, his
Finding
name is
Nemo.
Bruce, as an homage. Yes, Finding Nemo. Um,
If you
but
guys
the
didn't
shark
guess,
in
I'm
that
a
movie is
fan
named
of
Bruce, and it's
children's
an
films.
homage to Jaws.
Yes, yes.
But anyways, so that movie, I guess, originally featured the shark way more than it was actually ended up doing. But because they had built it with the idea of water and tried to make sure it would work within water, but they didn't consider that the water it would be in would be salt water. When they were actually filming with it, it was causing the shark to break down constantly,
Mhm,
which encouraged Steven Spielberg to reduce how much the shark was in the movie. So instead, you get a lot of anticipation of the shark instead of the actual shark, which ended up making it a scarier movie. And I think
mhm.
that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a story that I'm intimately familiar with. There is a Broadway play that is I don't want to say it's a parody, but it is a
Like a
um
satire or something?
I don't really know how you would classify it because it's like it's about the actors relaying their experience on the set of Jaws. So, like one of the
Interesting.
scenes, I did a scene from it in acting class that I thought was like really fun to do, which is it's Roy and the dude who plays the sheriff. I forget what the sheriff's name is.
I forget his name
Um,
too.
but it's like those 2 characters, and they're literally like they're sitting, in their, chairs, like they're on set and they're just sitting in their actor chairs. They're just talking about like, so like, why does this shark keep breaking down? Like, what's what's the problem? And it's just like, it's just them like, so yeah, I mean, like I woke up at 6 for this.
That's hilarious. What's the name of the show?
Oh, I can't remember the name of the play. Let me see if I can do a quick Google search while Jason talks about something else real quick.
All right. So while you're doing that, let me tell you about a really another Steven Spielberg film that I think is fascinating, and I'm wondering if you can guess what it is. There is a movie that was originally written and expected to be a horror movie, and as it was in production, it had gotten pretty far into production. There was a shifting of gears, and it ended up becoming a cult classic family film, like a feel good movie, and has nothing to do with horror anymore at all. Do you know what film that might be?
S- Say that again, please.
Uh, it is a movie that was originally intended to be a horror film. It was directed by Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
During the production, it shifted gears and it became a cult classic feel good family movie.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. No, it's actually E.T. Did
Uh,
you know E.T. was supposed to be a horror movie?
I would believe that.
Originally, it was supposed to be about a family abducted by a group of aliens or that interacted with a group of aliens. And one of the aliens was like a much more mild, younger alien that bonded with the son of the family that they were attacking. And that idea ended up becoming the movie instead, and they dropped everything
Mm.
else. So it was called, I think, Night Skies or something like that at the time. But they scrapped everything but that storyline with the young boy and the timid alien, and that became ET.
That was gonna be my 7th choice.
Well, good. Next time I should let you go longer.
I believe that though because ET, uh, if you've ever been to the ET ride, at Universal, it's a very fine line because it is when you get on the ride, it is a very wholesome experience, and it is a very um nostalgic experience, but it's like it's also like a hop skip and a jump away from being very terrifying. I feel so I think that that's interesting. I didn't know that about ET, but I would believe it because it does have all of the parts of a horror story.
Funny enough, the scary parts of that movie that they were writing, they ended up pulling out and reworking to turn into Poltergeist. So like the
Oh,
interactions between like the scary aliens and children, that became, some of the major pieces of Poltergeist, which I thought that was cool too.
that is
But
interesting.
I think it's that time of the show where
Wait,
we do trivia.
before we move on, I found the name of that show, and
Oh, okay, good.
this is hilarious. You would think that I would have remembered this. So this is a 2019 play by
The
Ian
Vagina
Shaw.
Monologues.
Huh?
Was it the Vagina Monologues?
Oh my god, dude! It's like same. No, not
Only with
even,
Jaws?
not even close. That would be that would. I bet you that would get a lot of people to the
You know what?
theater.
I would I'd have to go see it. If they cross those 2 properties, like, they're like, "Hey, we got 2 IPs we need to resurrect, Jaws and Vagina Monologues." I'd have to attend for curiosity's sake alone.
Is the Vagina Monologues a 2019? Like,
It's
I
probably
feel
older
like
than
it's
that. I don't
older.
know when that was.
I
That's
feel like
probably, but I don't know if it's come back around again or not, but, it was the first thing that came up to my mind that was
when I was up
wacky and
in
clearly not the answer.
when I was up in New York, I think like 2021, I think there was like an off-Broadway production of it, but that's neither here nor there. So 2019 play written by Ian Shaw that is a comic parody of Jaws is The Shark is Broken. That's literally the name of the
Like,
production is the
and it's
sh-
like the perfect title. I mean,
So yeah, great
I
play.
will
I
have to check that
recommend
out.
it. I recommend reading it even if you can't go and see it. Like it's a funny play. If you
I'm
can
sure.
see it, great play.
Nice. All right, you ready for trivia?
Okay, I'm not the greatest at trivia, which throws a lot of people because I know a lot of dumb shit. But
All right. I'm gonna try to answer them with you because I don't have the answers. I mean, once I click the answer, then it'll tell me. This is a quiz put together on Quizmaker
oh,
by somebody named Screaming Shadow 204. So I don't know who that is, but it was an interesting quiz, and I thought we would give it a shot. So if for some reason Screaming Shadow 204 is listening to this, thank you for producing this because well done. All right. So, question number one, and these are multiple choice, just so you know.
oh, okay.
What film showcases death by strangulating with a clothesline in the shower? Is it Final
In the
Destination,
shower,
Paranormal Activity, Along Came the Devil, The Conjuring, or Cloverfield?
Cloverfield.
Have you seen Cloverfield?
No.
It's definitely not Cloverfield. Cloverfield
Oh.
is like Godzilla,
Oh, okay.
also an interesting found footage
Oh,
movie.
what, you can't strangle somebody with a clothesline in a Godzilla film?
Godzilla could do it. He could do whatever.
Uh,
Who's going to stop Godzilla?
what were my
Um,
choices again? Now that we know that
Final
one is out?
Destination, Paranormal Activity, The Conjuring, Along Came the Devil, and Cloverfield.
I've never heard of Along Came the Devil, so I feel like
Neither have I.
okay. Man, I haven't seen any of these really. So, I've already guessed one and I've eliminated one of the options. So what would be your guess?
I've seen all of these except for Along Came the Devil because I don't know what that is. I do not remember this as a scene in any of them specifically, but I am certain it is not in Paranormal Activity, Cloverfield. It's between Final Destination and The Conjuring.
I'm
And based on
leaning
how Final Destination works, I'm leaning that way.
really, I'm leaning towards The Conjuring. So let's hedge so let's audience, now is your opportunity to place your bets on who's correct. You have a 50-50 shot, assuming one of us is right, or maybe everybody just loses it all.
All right, I have clicked the answer, and it is Final Destination.
Okay.
All right. In what movie does someone get hit in the face with an axe while listening to Hip to Be Square? Is it Friday the 13th, Halloween, American Psycho, Hatchet, or House of
It's
Wax?
gotta be American Psycho.
It is
It's
absolutely American
gotta be
Psycho. I'm
American Psycho.
positive of it.
Also, that's a
Yep.
horror film?
It's considered horror. Yeah, he's a murderer. He murders how many
I
people during
suppose
that
that's
movie?
fair. I watched with my brother, and that I actually thought was a good film. So going
That's
back
a
to your
great film.
question about horror films that I guess Morgan likes, I guess American Psycho.
We found one. I feel we might as well just retire the podcast now. Our job is complete. All right, question number three. What horror film depicts a character crashing their dirt bike into an artificial wall? Jason X, Cabin in the Woods, Three from Hell, Lord of Salem, or none of the above?
Yeah, I've not seen any of those. So crashed a motorbike into a false wall.
Into an artificial wall. Yeah. I
Um,
have seen Jason X and I've deleted most of it from my brain. And I have seen Cabin in the Woods and often confuse a lot of that for Cabin Fever. I have
I
not seen the other
I'm
ones.
gonna say it's not Cabin in the Woods because what wall would you crash into in the woods?
See, I'm
Just
actually thinking it
logically.
is Cabin in the Woods. Have you seen that movie?
No.
So Cabin in the Woods, they stumble into what they think is like a small building, but it's like some kind of weird science complex thing where they like torture stuff. And I think it is Cabin in the Woods because I think that they try to get off because it looks like they have a clear shot to just jump over a gap. And I think the guy
Mm.
runs into the thing. That's my vote, but I'm open to selecting whatever you think the answer is.
Well, I mean, like, I don't have any reason for selecting a different one. I haven't seen any of them, Jason.
All right. It was, in fact, Cabin in the Woods.
Ah, okay.
All right. In Silence of the Lambs, who is Buffalo Bill's victim the daughter of? Was it a congressman, a president, a senator, a mayor, or a governor?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this in the comments, but I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, and literally every person I've ever met, especially my acting teachers, chastise me daily about having
It is a
never
good movie.
seen Silence of the Lambs. But I don't even know what it's about. All I know is that it's like vaguely a horror film, and I'm just like not.
Buffalo Bill is a guy who kidnaps women and then cuts their skin off to wear it like a mask.
Oh, cool. All right, so
Jodie
just everyday
Foster has
stuff.
to, yeah, Jodie Foster plays a detective that has to solicit the help of a imprisoned murderer to try to figure out what Buffalo Bill's next move is going to be to catch him.
Okay.
So I do not remember what the girl was the daughter of. I'm going to guess governor because that feels right, but I don't really have a good reason for it.
What were the options?
Congressman, the president, a senator, a mayor, or a governor.
I'm gonna guess senator because it's not the president.
All right, let's try senator. You were right. It was in fact the senator.
Oh, come at
All
me.
right, final question. As I use my microphone. All right, final question. In the movie The Strangers, what is said to the female victim as she asks? Hold on, let me start this again. In the movie The Strangers, what is said to the female victim when she asks the attackers, why are you doing this? Is it we need the money, we are hungry because you were home, or we thought it was Halloween?
I feel like because you were home is a very like horror plot point. Like there's no actual justification, just we saw an opportunity and we took it.
Is that the one you want to go with?
That's one that I would go with, yeah.
I also believe that that's the answer, and it is.
Yeah.
I think we scored 1,000,000 points on that quiz. I didn't actually keep track.
Come at me again with how horror has a real plot.
I will put together a list of movies, horror movies with plots, and it will be your homework to watch them all, and then we'll do a follow up on this next Halloween.
Great. So I have
Fantastic.
plenty of time to watch a handful of films.
Yep. But I think that brings us to the end of our show. This is the end of our first episode, Morgan. How'd you feel?
Crazy. I This was fun. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys all had a lot of fun. I know that we're just two guys that kind of sort of know something about something. So
Or at least we pretend to be. At bare minimum, we'll fake it until we make it.
yeah. So yeah, this was I thought that this was great fun. I You know what's funny is I don't necessarily seek out horror films, but I do enjoy talking about them.
Perfect. Then we picked a good topic for our first episode. Now we just got to figure out what our next episode's going to be about.
Well, obviously it has
Lots
to
of
be
options.
Thanksgiving.
Think it could be. We'll see. The only
Depends
one way to
on
find out is if people come back for the next one.
It's true. We haven't, just so that everybody knows, this is a new thing that we're doing, and we're not sure if this will be a weekly thing, a bi-weekly thing. So check back often to find out, because this is the first one, and we haven't planned out the second one.
Fair. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. By all means, figure, you know, we'll have a next episode in the nearest future. But feel free to follow, like anything that we post down below as far as socials go, and
And let us
we'll,
know.
we'll get this all straightened out. But yeah, figure out if there's something you would like to see. Let us know too. We're happy to talk about it.
Yeah, let us know what you guys would be interested in hearing us talk about. Because again, we're filmmakers and we know some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the struggles that goes on, and if any of that would be interesting, in a themed way.
Perfect. Well, until next time, we'll talk to you then. We don't have a closeout, do we?
We
We
don't
need a
have a closer
closeout.
yet. We're just
Oh man.
we're gonna go out on us humming. What is there like a famous horror theme that we can play out to?
It's just gonna be us doing the
Yeah,
now, why don't we end this like the movie The Mist ends? Do you know how the movie The Mist ends?
not a clue.
So if you want character development, The Mist, Thomas Jane plays a father. He goes to the store with his kid. All of a sudden, this fog rolls in, and there's creatures in the fog, and they attack people. So you can't go outside. And eventually, they leave the building that they're in, and they're trying to get away. Um, I won't spoil it all, but the ending is incredibly depressing, and it just ends with Thomas Jane just bawling his eyes out for the most horrific ending I've ever seen to any movie ever. So maybe we should just finish this by crying our eyes out and hoping somebody takes pity on us to rate this highly.
No.